16. The following weekend, Boots and I drove up to visit Tony. He had grown quite tall, with a swell of muscle in his forearms and chest, wiry, but with more than an intimation of great physical strength in the young, cleanly built body. His face, with its deep-set black eyes and aquiline nose, showed the fierceness of his African heritage, tempered by the compelling beauty of a black starless night. His broad features burst into a genuine grin of happiness.
"Damn, Whoreson, I done damn near gave up on seeing you until I got out."
Without any embarrassment, he embraced me and crushed me against his broad chest. I had to blink to hold back the tears of joy that were filling up my eyes. The other inmates ignored their visits to watch us curiously. Just as suddenly as he grabbed me, he released his bear hug and swooped down on Boots. She uttered a startled yell before being swept off her feet. While swinging her back and forth as though she were a toy, he planted wet kisses all over her cheeks.
"Damn it, girl!"
His voice boomed out across the visiting area.
"You better stay out the sun. You get any blacker, I'm going to disown you as being my sister."
He winked in my direction, and I grinned. Knowing him as I did, I knew he had said it to embarrass the white people who had stopped visiting to watch us. Boots hadn't realized why he did it, so she kicked him sharply on the leg. He set her back down.
"God damn you, Boots!"
he swore, and then added quietly, "I was just showing the white folks we was true to form." The frosty glare disappeared from her eyes, and she smiled suddenly. "Well, just don't use me for any more of your demonstrations." Tony put his arm around my shoulder.
"I don't see how you do it, Whoreson,"
he said, shaking his head at Boots.
"Me now? I ain't gonna have nothing but white girls. They know their place. You show me a black girl, and I'll show you the most evilest, meanest, mule-headed woman God put on this earth."
Glancing out the corner of my eye, I could see that Boots was steaming. She managed to control her temper until the visiting period was up. We were just about the last ones to leave, and all of Tony's friends who had had visitors joined us. The lush green lawn was almost free of people. Before, it had been full of running and screaming children, but now most of the lawn chairs were empty. A guard started towards us. Boots stood up. Yeah, Tony, I almost forgot to give you Jean's message," she said quietly. "She said—" Tony interrupted her.
"What Jean you talking about?"
"Don't try and act clever, nigger," Boots replied sharply. "She asked me to tell you that she wanted you to know that she sure liked that hot head you laid on her before you left the streets." The cold, harsh words fell on a silence like a void. For a moment, there was total stillness. Then Tony's friends broke out in laughter. Some of them laughed so hard they fell down and rolled over on the grass, holding their stomachs. Amidst the uproar, Boots stalked off towards the car. Tony stared after her in wonder.
"That's what I call a dirty black bitch, Whoreson,"
he muttered angrily. I watched her feline grace until she entered the Cadillac. "Well, Tony," I said, amused, "looks like you got a lot of explaining to do to your friends, baby." He grinned.
"That's a top-notch whore you got there, Whoreson. In fact," he continued soberly, "there's something about her that reminds me of Jessie."
Later on, as I drove back to Detroit, his words stayed in my mind. I take my eyes off the highway and glance in Boots' direction. After catching me looking at her a few times, she asked, "You ain't mad with me about what I said about Tony, are you, Daddy?" Since Tony mentioned it, I could see some similarity between Boots and my mother, though Jessie had been slightly smaller. Both were tall, dark, beautiful black women with forceful personalities. Whereas Jessie had been quiet, content to live within herself, Boots was the opposite. She enjoyed the company of others, and when she was by herself, she became miserable. I roused myself from my thoughts as her voice penetrated my daydreams. "Yeah, baby," I said lightly. "Just you be careful who you say such things to, baby, 'cause some niggas get awful mad when people infer that they go in the bushes." She slipped her arm over the back of the seat and laughed lightly. Her skirt inched up above her knees, and I put my arm in her lap. As we neared the city, I pulled her skirt up higher and caressed her smooth thighs. I led Boots out of the car in front of the restaurant connected to the hotel so she could pick up some cigarettes. I parked the car and walked slowly back. The lavish hotel lobby was crowded with people sitting around and talking. Upon entering, I stopped and looked around casually. Boots came out of the side door of the restaurant without seeing me and started towards the elevator. There were 4 men sitting at a table playing cards, and one of them reached out and grabbed her arm as she went by. His voice came across the room to me, clear and sharp. "Hey, honey, what's your hurry?" he asked. "That young boy you got upstairs got too many girls to be worried about you." "That's my arm you happen to have hold of," she replied coldly. "Dig how cold she is," he said sarcastically. "Honey, you ain't cold, and that young punk you got for a man ain't got enough sense to tell you how to respect a man." A few of the whores and pimps sitting around began to laugh. I watched Boots with amusement. I knew she had a sharp wit, and I hoped that she could handle him. If she couldn't, I was pretty sure that I could. Boots' voice began to rise in anger. "I don't care what you say about my man. At least he don't have to sit out here in the lobby and molest other people's women." "You got it wrong, baby," the tall, thin card player said. "First of all, you ain't got a man. You got a boy. And second, you have to be a man to hang out down here." Boots laughed sarcastically. "You say my man is a punk, huh? Why don't you come upstairs and tell that to them 10 black whores here sleeping up there? Better yet, why not try and tell the 6 white whores, 3 bulldaggers and 2 punks, and 1 gold-toothed mule that looks like you, that he ain't a man?" The card player's friends laughed at her retort, but I noticed that he was getting mad. So I moved in. I grabbed the arm that he was holding Boots with. "If you don't mind, buddy," I said softly, "I'd like to see my woman go on about her business." "Sure, man, sure," he said, and with insolence slowly released her hand. He turned his back on me and started laughing and talking to his friends as though I didn't exist. As Boots took my arm, I could feel my temper mounting.
"Next time one of these tricks stops you," I said loud enough for the whole lobby to hear, "you find out how much money the sissy is spending, baby, and if he ain't spending any money, don't waste any time with him."
And then I added, as an afterthought,
"You know how some freaks are, baby.
They come just by holding a whore's hand." When the elevator stopped, I turned around before entering it and saw that 2 of the card player's friends were holding him in his seat. We entered our apartment and hugged up, laughing our heads off. The smell of burning hair was strong in the air. I could hear the chatter of many feminine voices coming from the kitchen. I sighed with resignation. Moving from my flat hadn't done any good. The girls just found an excuse to leave a dress or coat whenever they visited my penthouse, and before I knew it, they had just about moved in. Boots uttered my very thoughts. "Oh, Whoreson, every time I enter this suite, I'm overwhelmed by its beauty."
"You should be," I answered. "For $30 a day, it should have a swimming pool in the front room."
I walked into the lavishly furnished living room. The deep, blood-red wall-to-wall carpet felt plush beneath the $85 lizard-skin shoes I was wearing. The carpet alone seemed to trumpet my arrival as an up-and-coming young pimp. "Whoreson?" I turned as Boots glided to a stop before entering the bedroom.
"What, baby?"
"I'm going to change into something more comfortable," she said. "How about twisting me up a joint?"
"Okay, pothead," I said, grinning. "We didn't already smoke the matchbox since this morning, woman, but just for you, I'm going to smoke some more."
"Oh, baby, you sure treat me good, don't you?" she said gaily. She dipped down in her bra and came up with a small brown envelope. I took the weed from her, and as she turned towards the bedroom door, I playfully slapped her on her wide ass. "Ouch, Whoreson!" I sat down on the white sofa and placed the envelope of marijuana on the coffee table in front of me. My eyes roamed around the room. The architectural design was typical of middle-class hotel suites around the country. However, whoever did the decor knew his business. Everything was ultra-modern. My fingers savored the smooth texture of the fine material covering the sofa, as my mind received vivid impressions from an abstract oil painting on the wall in front of me.